All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's Lunch and Learn. And today we're going to talk about rebuilding trust and embracing forgiveness, a journey to healing. We're going to explore profound concepts of trust, forgiveness, and how they can lead to personal growth and healing. I'm Patty McGee. I'm your host. I'm author of the book Hope, an inspiring A to Z guide for cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers. I'm a life coach, owner of The Hydrated Life, and overall, I just like to help women especially overcome past judgment against themselves so that they can live a more purposeful life. And I feel that trust and forgiveness are two key components to helping you move forward in your life. So we're going to get started today. And if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat, but just welcome. And thank you for joining me today and whenever you view this. So we're going to start with the importance of trust. When you look at the people in your life, whether it's work, family, church, wherever you hang out. Hi, Linda. Hope you're having a good day today. But trust is the glue of life. If you think about it, who do you hang out with? Do you trust them? Do you embrace them? And, it's one of the most essential ingredients in effective communication. Most of our problems going on with our relationships and trust is that we don't have effective communication. Okay? It's a foundational principle that holds all of our relationships together. And it's the cornerstone of healthy relationships. If you are struggling with friendships and people are coming and going out of your life and you don't have, some people are going to, but if a lot of people are and you don't know why, you need to seek deep inside, can people trust you and can you trust other people? There's so many broken relationships because people just won't sit down and talk to each other. So the cornerstone of a healthy relationship is trust, regardless of whether it's family, friends, or your colleagues. Everything crumbles, all of our relationships, when they start with lack of trust. If someone breaks that trust. So how do we rebuild that when someone shatters it? Think back in your life to someone that really shattered your trust, leaving you broken and vulnerable. And the key part to this is when you look at a shattered trust, friendship, relationship, is that your mind will go back and tell you all the things that were wrong. And I always use my dad as a good example. Not that I didn't trust him, but I always looked at the negatives for where I wanted him to be in my life. And I never looked at the positives of what he did do in my life. And who can you look back for this trust that you feel has been shattered, because it's a very painful experience. And if we carry it out throughout our lives, which I did, it can lead us to negative coping mechanisms rather than positive, and moving forward into it so that the healing is possible. So try and think of somebody right now that, and it might be painful, that walked out of your life and you don't really know why, or someone that maybe you did lose their trust, or that you lost their trust. They did something or said something. I remember a while back, I had a group of friends and we had to really get honest with each other. One of our friends left the group for certain reasons, and we all got together and we really worked it out. Like, we spoke our truth and we spoke from the heart, and people listened. And to this day, we're a good core of people, minus the person that walked away, because we fought for each other. We heard what we needed and what was going on, and we made the adjustments so that we could remain friends. And that's what you have to do when you learn to trust again. You've got to start building these bridges, okay? It's going to take time and it takes commitment. Everything that happened, we didn't rebuild it in a day. It took many conversations. It took some tears. It took some even screaming and yelling. But it took a lot of listening and vulnerability. So even though it's a painful experience, we need to, you need to fight for what you want. Okay. So learning to trust and build that, I'm going to give you some steps. They're going to help you get started and get out of the mental cage that you're in that's holding you back, that you can't trust. So self-reflection is the very first one. Understand your feelings and fears associated with the trust. I'm the type of person that I trust until I don't. So if you come into my life, I really allow people to get to know me. I'm pretty vulnerable, and unless you give me a really good reason for me not to trust you, I have your trust forever, or you have my trust forever. But self-reflection helps you understand these feelings and fears, because when you don't trust yourself, which I went through many years of not trusting myself mostly, I had to look at who would I be if fear wasn't controlling me, because I didn't like myself. So how could somebody else like me? So I couldn't trust myself. So therefore, I couldn't be in a lot of relationships. Secondly, open communication. Honest conversations can rebuild any broken connection. If two parties are willing to sit down and talk about it, you can rebuild that connection. But it's going to take both of you to be vulnerable and honest. Now, in the case that someone will not come back together, you have to learn to let go and be okay with them out of your life. And I was very codependent. Hi, Karen. I lost my train of thought. Honest cave. I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. So open communication is honest conversations can rebuild broken connections, but we got to figure out the fear that's holding us back. So setting boundaries, establishing healthy boundaries is the key to building trust. When I was talking about when that one person walks away, you have to learn to be okay with that, because it's not about you. Okay, unless you're the person who walked away, you've got to figure out inside why you can't go back and communicate. So that person you as a person, you need to work on your communication skills, because if you really love the people around you, it will work out. It will. And you're going to have to take that time to build that trust again, if you want it. Otherwise, if you don't, you have to be okay with that person walking away. And, learning from experience to let the person go, sometimes it takes a month, a day, a year, 2 years, 5 years. But just understand it's not always you that has the issue. Then you have to learn to set boundaries. Establish healthy boundaries is key to rebuilding trust. I didn't have boundaries with certain people in most of my life. And thank you, Karen. I didn't have healthy boundaries. I talk about this all the time. We didn't have discipline growing up. We didn't have responsibility growing up. Our parents pretty much let us grow ourselves up. And it carries with you throughout your life. And you learn that you can't deal with other people in a healthy way because of that. So I didn't have boundaries. I just said what I wanted to do. I did what I wanted to do. And it really left me in a life of struggle and coping mechanisms. And alcohol at that time was my coping mechanism. So learning through Changes That Heal with Henry Cloud, if you're ever looking for a good book study, this is a great one. He talks to you about setting boundaries and all the distorted thinking that goes on in your mind, and how to set these healthy boundaries to rebuild your life and to be able to tell people how you feel. I remember a story in there about a lady that didn't want to go to her mother's for Thanksgiving, but her mother continually made her feel guilty about it. And instead of telling her, she would go and be miserable. And finally, Dr. Henry Cloud got her so that she could tell her mother, I just don't want to come for Thanksgiving this year. I want to do something different. And once she did, it opened up the boundaries. Yes, the mother was hurt, but once she understood it, then their relationship changed. And that's the only way you can change your relationships, is through your trust and good communication. Trust is built through consistent action over time. So consistency, when you go into a new job all the time, you don't just all of a sudden start telling everybody everything and all of that. You build it. You talk to your coworkers. You learn the system. You learn how to do things. We get so used to our families because we grew up with them that we can do the things we do, but it's different when we go into work. And when we meet new friends and new groups, you have to learn to build that trust. And it's not easy. So just know it takes time and consistency to rebuild and to build trust with people. Okay? So don't let your mind tell you can't do all the things you can't do, because you can do more. You have to trust yourself. We all make poor decisions and we all have to learn from them and move forward. So the more that you can rebuild the trust of yourself and others, it'll help you break out of these mental cages that are holding you back, which leads to forgiveness. Because forgiveness, according to Hannah Arnett, forgiveness is the key to action and freedom. How many of you sit in bondage because you're not free from forgiveness of things you've done in your past? I spent 37 years there. And, in the Bible, they call it walking in the wilderness, for 40 years. And, but for me, it was 37 years that I couldn't forgive myself. And when you do learn that, it's a gift that you give to yourself, because it relieves all these heavy burdens and resentment, and it paves a way for your healing. Okay. You just can't live in your past. And you need to acknowledge that you didn't know what you didn't know back then, and let it go. And even if you did know it was the wrong thing and you still did it, you have to learn to let go and forgive yourself. And you have to learn to let go and forgive others if you want them in your life. So how do we create this journey of forgiveness? Trust me, it's not easy. For me, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, it was when I found my spiritual counselor, because I believe that spiritual counseling reaches the soul and the spirit. It doesn't just rehash the past of everything that you did, but it reaches your soul and your spirit. And when that opens up, it just brings so much joy into your life. So the first step actually is acknowledging your feelings. Recognize and accept your emotions. Okay, emotional maturity is so important. And sometimes we just fly off the handle with anger. And you have to look at these emotions and know that you're feeling them, but don't act on them. Okay, so forgiveness, which is a transformative process, starts with you recognizing and accepting your emotions. It's okay to be emotional. I'm not saying that it's not. But how you react, okay? We all have acted out in a way that anger shows more than control. And when you can control those emotions around people, it gives you the opportunity to be able to improve the communication with them. So acknowledge your feelings. Secondly, have empathy. Try to understand the perspective of the person who hurt you. And that's hard, because if you can't be objective, if you can't stand back and say, man, what was going on with this person at the time, or yourself at the time, and understand their perspective a little bit. Many times we don't want to hear it. Many times we just cut them off. Oh, nope, you hurt me. I'm done. You're out of my life. And if you don't have that communication, roughly 30 years ago, I had a good friend, and she set me up with this guy to go on a date and stuff. And I went on the date with him, but he ended up talking about her the whole time because he really wanted to be with her. And there were some personal things that got discussed that he knew about and I knew about. And I said, if you don't tell her, I'm going to tell her. So I gave him the opportunity to tell her. And he did. And because he told her, she cut off the friendship immediately with me and wouldn't speak to me. And to be honest, I think we've spoken twice in the last 30 years since then. But it took a good 20 years before she would even acknowledge me. Did it hurt? Yes, it hurt inside. But I had to understand her perspective. So I let her just go on with her life. Not that I felt it was her loss of losing my friendship, but it was my loss too of losing her friendship. We had been friends for a good, probably good 10, 15 years. But she never got the opportunity to understand my perspective because she shut down. And I was always hoping someday we would get that chance to talk, but we never did. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Because 30 years, I've moved on. I've got a great life. But we have to try and listen to the other person's perspective once the hurt is over, once the initial shock is over. Sit down and talk to the person. Ask them what they were thinking. Okay? Release any resentment. Let go of negative emotions to find some inner peace. Okay? We can resent people, we can resent bosses, we can resent family, but in the long run, it only hurts you when you carry that resentment with you throughout your life. So you've got to learn to let go of these negative emotions and be like, okay, it's over. How do I deal with it? And get with people that can help you get over it. Okay. Lastly, self-healing. Focus on your own growth and well-being. I took a really horrible situation in my life, a best friend walking away, and I have focused on my growth and my well-being. And you have to find books, you have to find podcasts, you have to find people. Because if you just sit at home and rehash it in your mind and don't learn how to grow from it, it's going to keep you in that mental cage that you can't trust people, that people can't trust you, and that you just never have forgiveness of yourself or others. So in your self-healing, you've got to focus on your growth and well-being. And I really recommend this book here, The Untethered Soul. A journey beyond yourself, because our healing depends on our journey and only our journey. And sometimes you can't bring other people along in that journey. So it's the journey of self-healing that builds your trust and your forgiveness inside of you that creates your well-being. So I want you to take a look at where you are focusing your energies, and are you growing and creating well-being, or are you staying in that mental cage? Because that mental cage will keep you depressed, sad, angry, unforgiving, and untrustworthy. So look at your focus and where can you start to grow and create your well-being. Okay, so I want to make sure that you understand these few points. Don't punish yourself for things that are out of your control. Okay, in forgiveness and in trust, there's certain things that are out of your control. You're going to trust people and they're going to let you down. You can't control that. Now, you can control not letting people in, but that's going to leave you very lonely. So move on. Learn to move on to the next person. I remember my sister Kelly telling me one time, she goes, man, you can always find something good in somebody. And, you know, I think about that statement because there is good in everybody. Sometimes it's just buried underneath brokenness after brokenness after brokenness. And if you can give that person just a little bit of hope, a little bit to help them try and get it out of them, try and find it in them, that will help them grow in their well-being. But don't punish yourself for things that are out of your control. If you didn't know something about somebody, let it go. It's okay. I kept secrets hidden in me for 37 years. You know, you gotta let it go. There's certain things out of your control. Don't punish the next person who comes into your life because of the last person who left your life. How many times do we take what's happened to us and we set it as the cornerstone for the next person coming in, and they haven't even done anything to us? So don't punish the next person. Bring them in. Let them love you. Let you love on them, whether it's just a friendship or a relationship, a work relationship. If it's a new boss, don't hold them to a standard because of your old boss. Okay? Don't let guilt weigh you down. You got to find answers to letting go. So the 3 ways that I find that resonate with me in learning to let go and create healing within me. The first one that I mentioned, spiritual counseling. Again, they take it in your heart and your soul. It's not always about God. It's not always about faith if you're not about that. Spiritual counseling is an inner healing where they take and they work on your soul and your spirit so that you're more open to seeing the things around you that are more joyful and more happy, so that you can move forward. They help you acknowledge what has happened, but then you move forward. Okay, books. I mentioned 2 good books today. Constantly reading, self-help, well-being. Just find people that can help you. Find some groups that can help you. Okay. Podcasts, Facebook Lives, anything like this that resonates with you, dive into it and try the techniques that they recommend. Okay. Because it's so important. And I don't know where my phone went to here. I was going to read something to you today. One of my friends sent this to me, and I'm going to close with it because it really hit home today. And I want to leave this lady with you. She talks about the tears that taught me. Her name is Morgan Richard Oliver. She's a lady on Facebook. But it says, I prayed that God would remove all in me in my life that didn't align with his plan. And I began to lose everything. My comfort zone, my friends, my mind, and the idea of who I was in this world. The pain derived from what was revealed and removed brought on a different depression, a type of depression that came from mourning a version of myself that I needed to outgrow because it was out of order. Is there something in your life that's out of order? From there, I began to see that removal is a blessing. He removed my immaturity, my strongholds, and my carnal way of thinking. I lost every thought, person, and belonging I didn't need for my journey. So as you go through these journeys in life, understand that when things are removed and you have to start building new, that you have to trust so that you can move forward and create this healing. Okay? Find your faith, find your truth, and find your healing. Learn to trust and learn to let go and forgive. That's what's going to create inner healing, and that's what's going to create you to live a healthier life. Because you can sit there and rely on the negatives, and it's just going to keep you underwater drowning. Or you can stand up and say, I'm going to make the change. I'm going to find how this works, and I'm going to get the right people in my life, and I'm going to move forward. So moving forward isn't easy, but it's necessary. So today, look at your life, see where you need to trust yourself and who you can use to trust others. Who around you do you trust, or who do you have to have a hard conversation with so that you can trust them again? And then just let go. Forgive. Forgiveness comes from the heart. It sets you free. It gives you freedom. And there's no room for it. So I hope you have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it helps you. Leave me a like if it did, and I'll see you next week at my Lunch and Learn.